These are my 7 rules for a disciplined life. 2 years ago, I embarked on my biggest physical challenge ever, and that was to complete an Ironman 70.3. Now, my background for 20 years or so has been playing elite amateur sports and imagining what I could do if I was a pro athlete. Now, I'm not a pro athlete, but I still have those ambitions to achieve as good as I can do in every aspect of my life. So whether that's sports, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's my general health and wellness, and definitely in business, I am trying to be the best I can possibly be. I am trying to be the best I can possibly be. And these are my 7 rules for a disciplined life, especially if you have those health and wellness goals. Now, who am I? You may have seen me on Instagram and TikTok. I post a lot about fitness, wellness, triathlon training, running training, and in general, just the things I love doing in the health and wellness area. And this YouTube channel is going to explore more of that, but also I'm an entrepreneur. I'm someone who likes to build things, and I'm going to deep dive into those areas of my life and what I do to ensure I'm successful in those areas. So let's get to it. Rule number 1 is discipline is more important than motivation. Now, you may have heard this before, and it is so true. When I was training for my first Ironman 70.3, there was no way every single day I was motivated, but I had a big vision, and that vision drove me to wanting to get up every single day because that vision was emotional. That vision to complete the biggest physical challenge I had ever done was so motivating that even on the days where I had zero motivation, I could still muster that energy to go and do that 6 a.m. gym session or that 6 a.m. swim. And believe me, I hate those early morning swims. Michael Phelps has always said it most clearly. And if you're going to listen to any professional athlete, I think he's probably a good enough guide for anyone to follow. During his peak Olympic performances, he said he trained every single day, 365 days a year for 4 years straight. Now, if anybody's tried to do half marathon training, or Ironman training for even 4 months, you know how difficult that can be. And to go a year, 2-3 years without ever missing a workout shows that discipline is more important than motivation. Tip number 2, and the really important rule number 2 is sleep. Without sleep, you're not going to remember the things that you need to remember, and your muscles and your body are not going to recover to the degree that you need to, especially if you're trying to train every single day. Whether you have that London Marathon goal this year, or you have a half marathon goal at the end of the year, wherever in the world you're living, your body needs to recover because you're going to be doing massive sets, massive sessions, and without sleep, your muscles just don't have time to properly repair and build the blocks of muscle. Your muscles just don't have time to repair. Now, sleep has lots of different benefits. Go and watch Huberman Lab if you want a real deep dive on what sleep can do. I know the bare bones to help me through setting a healthy daily lifestyle. But fundamentally, sleep is going to transform every single day the energy that you have. For me, I'm working on trying to have a consistent bedtime now because I know the benefits of sleep. If I get better sleep, my resting heart rate is lower, I feel less stressed, and every single workout I can be much more motivated, and because I have that much more energy. So remember, sleep is vital. Your body needs to recover, and there's 4 or 5 sleep stages. You have light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, and then you have the stages where you're awake. I'm sure there's a 5th one. If you're a sleep expert, drop it in the comments. But getting the right amount of sleep in each category is super vital if you are going to perform at the best that you can possibly be every single day. Rule number 3 is writing down your goals. Now, for me, this was really uncomfortable. I've always hated writing to the degree that I've had to do it for academia. But during my Ironman 70.3 training, I made sure I wrote down my goals every single day. And the reason for that, completing that open water swim during that Ironman 70.3 was a fear that I had to overcome. And every time I wrote down that goal of I am going to complete the Ironman 70.3, what that meant was I'm completing the swim. And so mentally, I'm reminding myself every single day that I've done it. I'm going to complete the swim and I'm going to do it successfully. So by writing down my goals every single day for 6 months, I was convincing my brain that I was going to complete the Ironman and by default overcome things that I had fear about. So whether that was the swim, which was my case, whether for you it's running a long way or cycling a long way, or whether you have something in business that you're trying to overcome, Writing down those goals will tell your brain that you're already thinking about completing them. And just from my personal experience, when you tell the brain over and over again that you're going to complete something, it listens to it and it remembers it. There's a brilliant study somewhere, and I'll try and find the link, that shows that if you think you've completed something, your mind thinks that you've completed it. So whether or not you've taken part in a test or not, if you mentally tell yourself you've completed the test, your mind doesn't know if you've actually physically done it or not. Your mind just knows that it's been in the mental state of completion. So actually reminding yourself and visualizing a future where you're successful, your brain already thinks you're there. And that can be a huge factor whether you're going to be successful or not, whether you're running, cycling, swimming, or in business. Rule number 4, to follow up on that, is have achievable goals. Now, so many people have goals that are dreams and they don't have the plan of action to achieve those dreams. For me, I have huge dreams. Some I know are unrealistic, but the ones that I know that I can achieve, even if they seem like a pipe dream to some, for example, when I did my first Ironman 70.3, I couldn't swim more than 20 meters in the pool. And that's 100% true. I bought all the gear for my first ever proper swim session, jumped in the pool somewhere in London, and I kid you not, I got 20 meters down the pool, hadn't completed the length, and I was gasping for air. And that's when I realized, oh, this is going to be a long journey. This is going to be something that I just have to dedicate a lot of time to. But mentally, I knew I could overcome it. And so having a massive challenge, putting the work in, being dedicated, but also having goals that you know are going to be achievable if you put the work in is super, super important. There are a lot of people who say just have big goals, and I'm one of them. To have a big goal takes the same amount of energy to have a small goal. And so have a big goal, don't bother with the small goals. However, if you hit 100 small goals in a row, if you compound that performance, you're going to have way more success than if you just do one big goal. For example, if you just look at mathematics, if you take a number and times it by 1% for 100 weeks, that's going to be more than increasing 100% for the same amount of weeks, just how compounding works. 1% gains over a long period of time is more important than doing one big action in one go. You'll actually perform better and get further in your goals if you actually hit those small achievable goals over time. It's counterintuitive, but believe me, it works. Tip number 5 goes back to sleep, but it's the ability to set myself up for the day. And that is getting up at the same time every single day. And for me, it's not ridiculously early. I'm not a former Navy SEAL or someone who's been through the SAS. For me, it's sub at 7 a.m. If I'm up at 6:30, 6:45, I can get to the gym, I can get active, I can activate my mind for the day, and I'll be then focused for the rest of the day pretty much. There's times when I'm not focused, but in general, if I can get myself up consistently every single day, I feel better. I know I'm more focused and I can achieve more. Getting up early for some people may be a challenge, but you have to maximize the amount of hours that you've got in the day. Now, I'm not someone who can work 16 hours a day. I may be online from 7 a.m. till 11 p.m., but 8 hours of that, I'm not going to be doing stuff. I may be thinking about things that I want to do. I may be ideating plans. I may be in meetings where I'm not actually doing the work. If you're really, really critical about your time, those hours that you're awake, you're not going to be productive throughout all of them. But you've got to set the foundations up so that those hours that you are awake, you are ridiculously focused. And that's what I try to do by getting up early every single morning at the same time. Rule number 6 is very, very simple, and everyone forgets it. It's eating healthily. Not for a preachy reason. I'm not saying eat vegan. I'm not saying be a vegetarian or a pescatarian. Pretty much any diet is going to be healthy, but it all depends on the food groups that you're consuming. Your body is like a high performance car. If you give it the wrong food, how do you expect it to perform at the highest level that you need it to do? And that's really how I view it. When I have a period of 5 or 6 weeks where I am ridiculously healthy, even one cheat meal directly changes my body composition every single day. And I have the data to back that up. I've tracked my data now since 2016, where I got my first Fitbit. And I know when I'm really, really fit, one single deviation in the food that I consume massively impacts my resting heart rate, massively impacts my fat composition of my body, and massively affects my energy. I can kind of feel when I haven't fueled properly. But when I've been through sort of 3 or 4 weeks where I haven't stuck to a routine, I may be less fit than I want to be or think I can be. Having cheat meals over and over again doesn't affect you as much. It's a really weird paradigm to be in, but the fitter you get, the more you notice when you have one cheat meal. And so it really does help redefine how I view food. Food is the healthy fuel that I'm going to give my body. And if I treat my body well, my body will serve me well. And that's been proven time after time. Last year I was ill a couple of times. A few years ago I got a really bad bout of an illness, and you realize through those times how important health is. And so eating healthy, whatever healthy is for you, there's some guardrails. Don't overdo the sugar, try not to overdo the red meat, etc., for really good scientific reasons. But treat your body healthily and it will perform for you. And finally, in this video, it's probably the most important tip, and it's the most important rule that I live by. And it's very, very difficult for a lot of people because everyone is influenced by different people. People are influenced by different things. People are influenced by the latest TikTok video that they've been targeted with for 8 times in a row during one day, as I have been, and now I want to buy something. Being heavily influenced is now a part of life. And it's always been that way. It's just much more prominent now because we're online on our phones every single day. But peer pressure has always been there. And everyone's been there. Everyone's had those situations where there's peer pressure. And it doesn't have to be sinister. It doesn't have to be a really dangerous situation. But what I find is having very clear and focused goals requires me to have the ability to say no. And it's a skill. I have built that muscle over 10 years, building that muscle of saying no to things that I don't want to do, or things that I know I shouldn't do, or things that I know which will get in the way of a goal. And that final one is really important. The first two everybody can do. But if you have a goal that really means that much to you, giving yourself a pat on the back when you say no to something that doesn't directly influence your number one goal is something that you need to do, because sticking to goals is really difficult, but missing those goals in the future is painful. And so you have to pick between one or the other. Do you want to hit your goals in the long term, or do you want to say yes to opportunities now that directly impact your ability to hit those goals in the future? Some of those things are really obvious. Going out partying, going to a nightclub instead of getting an early night's sleep, saying no to alcohol, saying no to recreational drugs. All of those things are super important if you have a really big dream. You may want to do certain things that require you to be in an environment where it's going to be much harder to say no, or you might enjoy having a drink or two. But I think everyone understands nowadays that doing those things that I've listed severely impacts your health and wellness. And the ability to hit goals in your life, if they're big, as far as I'm concerned, and what I have experienced myself, relies upon health and wellness. So everything I do, I put through the filter of, is that going to directly influence my life in a positive way or not? And will it help me achieve the goals I have for myself? Because I know missing those goals is going to be way more painful than saying no to a few nights out. Progress genuinely requires sacrifice, and it's painful, but build that muscle. Start saying no to things that you know you should say no to. Start prioritizing the goals that you have. And on a very personal note, I have 3 to 4 goals this year, which is not very many, considering I create content, full-time job in a startup, have health and wellness goals. I have a personal newsletter, which I send every single Sunday. There's a nutrition brand that I'm launching. When I have all of those things together, anything outside of those, I have to say no to. Because I've learned over time, I've learned over a decade of being a professional in the business world that I can only do so much with my time. And if I cast my time across so many things, I'm not going to get much done. That's why I've only just jumped on YouTube. I've been busy on TikTok and Instagram, building those communities for the past year. I haven't really had time to do YouTube to the degree that I've wanted to. And I didn't have the ideas of what I wanted to talk to the camera about. And I think I know now. So build that muscle of saying no. Build that muscle of being very comfortable with sacrifice. And when you start hitting those big goals, you'll really appreciate yourself for building those muscles around dedicating your time to the things that benefit your life moving forwards. Everything I've talked about has genuinely helped me. Everything is first person experience. You may disagree with some of the things I say, but drop them in the comments. I like having an open debate. I know Olympians, world champion athletes, actors, actresses. I have a huge network of people who I've just met over time. And some of the things I've picked up have been from them. I also know one Olympian doesn't copy the same schedule as another Olympian. A professional footballer doesn't copy the same schedule as a cricketer. If you're in America, cricket's a sport. It's pretty big. And if you play a certain role in rugby, say you're a flanker or a front row, you're going to have a different training schedule to the halfback or the winger. There are so many different ways to achieve your goals. These are the 7 that I stick to, and I hope they help. As always, you hear it on all the channels. The only thing I ask from you is like, comment, subscribe. Every subscription helps. And about 75% of people who watch these videos don't subscribe, which is crazy because a lot of people who watch these videos come back time and time again. So if you do enjoy it, if it's your first time here on my channel, if you're back again and you've never subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And what it does is it helps YouTube find other people like you who this content could help. So that's just what the algorithm does. And I'm going to be posting content to drop every Sunday at 9 a.m., which is exactly in line with when I drop my newsletter. And that newsletter is linked down below. Everything I talk about health and fitness, setting priorities, setting goals, I talk about it all there. 5-minute newsletter every single week at 9 a.m. on Sunday. So until the next one, see you later.